Hello and welcome back to my studio. It's Lois here from Lois and Morgana Davidson Art, and today I'm going to be showing you how I painted this simple beginner-friendly landscape with the focus on the farm buildings and the tree line in the middle distance, with a lovely summer crop in the foreground field and distant hills and a nice blue summer sky. I'm using Saunders Waterford cold pressed watercolour paper. It's taped to my board and my board's at an angle of about 20 degrees, so gravity will help me paint. First thing I'm going to do is sketch out the farm buildings, the tree line and the hills. It's a made up scene inspired by a few similar scenes that I've looked at on Pixabay, but I'm just keeping this nice and simple for beginners. Once I've sketched in just the simplified features, as you can see, I'll be ready to paint. And if you want to pause the video now, you can refer to the sketch if you need to. I'm going to start off by painting most of the scene wet in wet. That means wetting the paper mostly all over, leaving a few dry patches for clouds and sort of some other features. I'm going to paint the clean water around the buildings so that they don't take in the wash when I put the sky wash in. The water and paint will flow around those dry areas. You see, I'm carefully cutting around that. That's where this 1.5 inch modeler brush is a really useful brush for applying washes. The flat shape helps me to cut round buildings quite easily, and the broad shape of it lets me apply the water to the paper quickly and in large, even brush strokes. I'm going to paint my sky in using the same brush. This is ultramarine blue with a touch of cerulean blue. You see, I'm painting around the clouds, keeping it a nice rich mid to dark value blue across the top, because remember, watercolour always lightens up by about 30% as it dries, and then just allowing the paint to run out on the brush so it becomes a lighter value towards the horizon, and this will help to give me my very loose, very simple sky. I've mixed a mid-value green using ultramarine blue and permanent yellow, and I've got a touch of burnt sienna in at one end of the mix, and so you can see that I've got some different hues of green going into the distant hill. As this softens and diffuses on the wet paper, this should give me my hills as a background, and so I'm following my roadmap, my penciled outline, to follow the shapes of that, and then I'll again cut around the farm buildings, leaving them unpainted. Don't worry if you go over any of your farm buildings, it won't matter too much, but you can use a paper tissue or a piece of kitchen towel to dab that out. Now I've mixed up a darker mixture by adding in some more burnt sienna. I've added in a bit of Payne's grey into the mix as well to make this really nice, rich, earthy green. And with this richer mix of paint, I shall start to paint my middle ground tree line, negatively painting around the building so they stand out nicely, and adding a bit of this darker colour into the hillside while it's still damp. And now I'm going to wash out my brush and dip into permanent yellow and raw sienna. Drag that horizontally using the full width of my 1.5 inch modeler brush. And then I've dipped into the green again with my fan brush, and this gives me some vertical little shapes that will suggest the crop growing. I can add some slightly different shades of green, continuing to build up a bit of variety so that I'm building up my field patterns on these gentle hills in the background. I'm now going to mix a really rich green with ultramarine blue, permanent yellow and Payne's grey, and start working around my buildings, putting in my darkest dark so that they really stand out. So I use the corner of my flat brush to create those tree shapes. It's a really versatile brush. I've rinsed it out so it's clean and damp, and I've used the tips just to run along the base of the tree line to clean up that edge. This is my palette knife, and I'm scraping through the paint just before it dries on the hillsides and in the trees. This scrapes back to either the colour beneath or the white paper, and in this case it's the colour beneath, and you can see that it's just given me a little bit of texture. It's given me some definition between the different hills in the background. And now I'm laying my board flat because I don't need the washes to run anymore. It's nearly all dry anyway. Just before it dries, just a few more details, a few more fine vertical marks with the fan brush just to build up the suggestion of those tall crops in the foreground. And I can enhance this just before the paint dries by taking some fine ground table salt and just sprinkling a tiny amount across the very foreground, and the little blooms that each salt crystal creates into the damp paint will give me hopefully some lovely effects. Just carefully putting in just a few more marks with my size 5 palette knife just before things dry. Just continuing to work through that damp paint and just getting a few more of those suggestions of trunks and branches. I decided that my tree over this side needs to be a bit higher, so using the corner of the flat brush in this dark green, but this time leaving some sky holes and then connecting those new marks with the old tree canopy with my palette knife. And then just before I leave it to dry, using the palette knife just to work in and around where the little salt crystals are working their magic. Then I need to leave the painting to dry. And here's the dry painting. I'm now going to start working on those farm buildings. I've mixed up a light value grey using my ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, maybe a little bit of Payne's grey in it as well. And then I'm going to use my flat brush and then swap between the flat brush and a small round brush to paint in the detail. Maybe a burnt sienna roof, but most of it will be in different shades of these sort of grey colours. And as you saw, I've added a small fence between the farm buildings and the tree on the right. And this is just the impression of creating the impression of some sort of bushes and small trees growing on the hillside in the background. A little bit maybe of burnt sienna just to add a bit of warmth to the foreground. A little bit of a darker green with the fan brush again. And the farm buildings have been drying in the meantime, so I can go in now and finish those farm buildings off, building up a bit of tone, bit of shadow here and there. So just a last few dark touches here and there just to balance up the tonal value, but still keeping it nice and simple. Take your time when you're painting buildings like this. It's worth sort of trying to sort of really think about where you want the lightest areas to be, in other words, next to the darkest trees that were painted around them, and that sort of thing. But I think I've come to the end of this painting now, so I'm going to remove the masking tape from the edge, and here it is with its clean white border. And I quite like this simple, tranquil scene. High summer, the downs in the background, the crop in the foreground, and that farm building with those lovely summer trees across the middle ground. Well, I hope you'll give something like this a go. Thank you so much for watching. Please click on the thumbs up button if you enjoyed the video, and why not consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't already. It's free to do and it really helps with our reach. And thank you so much to everybody that supports us on Patreon. We really do appreciate you. I'll see you again soon. Take care and happy painting. Bye.